everybody, and welcome to episode 29 of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who is with me tonight?
Detective Stefan JD.
Bounty Hunter Stuart Hughes.
That was good, guys. I couldn't think of anything to say snappy, so I was like, I got nothing. All right.
I was tempted to come in with Metal Gear.
There'll be a lot of that in this episode, I'm sure. And Stefan, would you like to introduce the weirdness that you picked out for us this week?
Yeah, we're playing Snatcher on Sega CD, a really weird game made by Hideo Kojima.
A year after the first Metal Gear.
God, is that early?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the original version,
88.
yeah, it came out in PC Engine, which I never knew that. I've never played this game before until the show. Supposedly it's on PlayStation and Sega Saturn.
It was the second game he made, which is really funny to me because it just feels like the most Kojima game ever. Like,
yeah.
He hasn't, like, at no point has his influence been at all dispersed in his games. It's just, it's still going strong.
Oh, and before we go too far, two things I want to state. One, there will be obviously spoilers for a game from 1988. So, oh my God, you're going to get spoiled something over 30 years ago. Second.
Almost.
Yeah, I'm 31. I was born in 87, so I knew it was right around there. So almost 30 years. It's close. Something like that.
31.
Or I just can't do math.
Ago.
No, it's over 30 years. I just can't do math all of a sudden. I'm tired.
It'll be 31 in November.
Yeah, and I'll be 32 in November, so, you know.
It's only 30, we should say, if you were born in Japan.
Yes, because it didn't come out in America until 95, I
Yeah.
want to say. But
Yeah, it got a super late port because it came out originally on the PC 8801.
And the MS and then the MSX2, which is stuff that we never got here. They're the Japanese computers, right? I want to say.
We got the MSX. I don't think we didn't get the.
Oh, we did.
I thought they were big in Japan, like Tom Waits. Tell that joke again. I think we got a MSX in America at some point, didn't we? Or we got like similar. We got like a Spectra video or something. That
if only we had the ability to look this up.
I'm looking it up. I think ColecoVision was similar too.
Okay. Oh, and so there will be spoilers for this game. This is a very story-driven game, but chances are if you haven't played it by now, and even if you hear us talk about it, you can still experience it because it's an experience. Second thing is we did pick this game. This game was originally picked to be on the show. God, I should have a long time ago, back when we recorded episode 12 of our show, when we did put this on. So back in early April, we picked this game to be on the show. It was not it was just, we did not, in the last 3 weeks ago, we officially announced it on Facebook that we were playing it. So we didn't put this on because of what had happened recently with Rutger Hauer passing away in the last couple of days.
It was weird timing. We didn't kill Rutger Hauer. I just want to point that out. We did not kill him.
It was just
happened that we decided to play Snatcher the same week that Rutger Hauer passed away.
This game is based on Blade Runner. I mean, not based on Blade Runner. What the hell? It's inspired by Blade Runner and other cyberpunk works that were around at the time, such as Terminator, Akira.
Mm-hmm.
And you can really feel, especially Blade Runner, you can really feel that whole mood from Blade Runner in this game.
Right. And Blade Runner came out, or the timeline for Blade Runner took place in 2019. So
it was super bizarre because while playing the game, I was like, "Oh, that character looks like Rutger Hauer from Blade Runner." And I turned on the news, and Rutger Hauer is like, "Rutger Hauer just passed away." I was like, "What the fuck?" I'm afraid to make any comparison to real life actors now.
And Blade Runner came out in 82, so enough time for them to really be inspired when they made this game.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So we just wanted to get that out there in case people thought we were trying to. We were not.
Yeah, not trying to bite off the sympathy here.
We did with Aladdin. We did publish Aladdin to try to go along with the movie, and if you haven't listened to Aladdin, you should, just because. Yeah. But we did not do it this week.
Depending.
You shouldn't play the game.
I like how we were like, let's do Aladdin because the movie just came out, and then everybody fucking hated the movie, and we're like,
yeah,
maybe we shouldn't do that anymore.
We're not.
In case.
Not after. No, we're done with that crap. But, all right, this week we're talking about Snatcher. We all played this on Sega CD. Disclaimer: we all played on emulators because
we all played a Sega CD version of the game because it never got a re-release.
It's getting re-released here soon.
Is it really?
Yes, sort of. Depends how good your Japanese is.
Okay. Yes,
it's being
sort of.
released on the TurboGrafx Mini that Konami is releasing. It's going to be on there, but the Japanese version is going to be on there, which this game is completely a visual novel text adventure type game. You could not play this if you can't read Japanese.
Yeah, right. That's super weird.
Yeah, because the Japanese version of that mini console is the same as the American. They put the same games on. Some are in English, some are in Japanese. Like, who gives a shit? And just throw them on there.
Well, so I know people have been asking for a re-release of Snatcher for a long time. So I was like, they've been asking for it, and the English version of it exists. I wonder if somebody just lost all the files for it. They don't want to remake it, so they're just like, just put out the Japanese game.
I think part of it is Konami. I mean, Konami is starting to release a bunch of their old, as of this recording, which is 7/28/2019. Konami is starting to release more of like the Contra, Castlevania stuff, but I honestly can't see this really coming out. Partly because their whole attitude with Kojima and just how this game is, even though it should be.
Like how Konami's starting to do another title for that headline is Konami starting to do re-releases because they've lost all their talent.
It's true. A lot of people left Konami, even the dude who was making all the Castlevania games. What's his name?
Igor. Oh God, what?
Igor from Frankenstein.
That's not it. Iga. I want to say it's Iga. He made Bloodstain just now.
Yeah. People always talk about Kojima leaving Konami, but they have lost a lot of talent. Like, people do not want to work for Konami anymore.
They don't even make games anymore. They make pachinko machines from the sound of it.
Yep.
So,
there's always money in the pachinko machine.
I love Konami's franchises, like Castlevania, Metal Gear, all that stuff. I love all those franchises. And, for
all the re-releases, they'll get their shit together and be like, oh yeah, people want video games.
Yeah, I think they're starting to kind of understand that. Just release their old shit. They don't even need to make. I do want a new Castlevania, but I'll be happy with that. Just I want a new 2D
I think the only
style.
way you're going to get a new Castlevania or a new anything from Konami is if pachinko is suddenly outlawed in Japan. The only way that's going to happen.
Very common. That's a very accurate statement, I think.
They're just making too much money from pachinko. They do not care about anything else.
And I think we should dive into the game now. Yeah. One thing about this game is it's very much a text adventure.
Yes. I can't even speak anymore.
You combined. It found like you combined Konami and Kojima and somehow got a different word. I don't know how.
That's my Japanese name. It's Konima.
First I should ask: anybody have any memories of this game before Stefan picked it for the show?
No.
Anyone ever play it?
I had never even heard of it.
I heard of it because I've tried to track down some of his old games, but I've never played it, but I've always had wanted to, but I never had a Sega Saturn, so I never had a Sega CD. I
think I was like vaguely aware of it on the occasion that I looked up Kojima to see if he ever made any other games besides Metal Gear, and I was probably like, oh yeah, he did. He made that game, and that was my only experience with it.
And if you try one of the reasons why we emulate this game, if you want to buy a copy on eBay, it's $400 to $600 for a copy. Even a loose copy is around that price.
That's only if you don't want to get a repro. You can get a repro for probably
if you're going to get a repro, you might as well just do what we did. At least nobody benefited other than we get to talk about a game from '88. I mean, no one else benefited.
It's just such a I would say I used to be super against the entire idea of emulators and everything, but for something like this, where it's just so difficult to get your hands on, you kind of have to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind emulation. To me, it's a very gray area, but it depends on what you're using it for. Like, I don't mind emulating something that came out 20 years ago, especially in a case where it's not available in any shape or form. I'm against people who are pirating something that came out like a week ago, a year ago, something that you can easily go purchase like for $5. Go purchase for $5. Yeah. But in a case where I'm not going to go pay somebody on eBay $400 for something that nobody's benefiting but the guy on eBay who somehow had a copy. That's a whole different thing.
Especially if there's like a company that's been out of business for so many years. It's like, who cares?
So I say it's on companies where it's like, you make something easy to purchase, people will purchase it. That's been proven time and time again.
Yeah.
You make something easy to buy, people will buy it.
Like when the Virtual Console first came out on Wii, I bought a bunch of old titles. Didn't play most of them, but I bought a bunch, even though I had emulation. And then my Wii got taken away when my girlfriend at the time left me. And I rebought them again. Still didn't play them, but people will buy stuff that is available. Even though I had emulation, I even had the SNES cartridges of some of these games, but I still went and bought it again just because I could.
And I think the biggest argument right now for emulation is also that we're the only ones that are going to preserve video game history because other companies don't care. A lot of them get rid of their old stuff, and once it's gone, it's gone.
And yeah, I imagine all the old all the old copies of this game from 98 or 88 even. Like, I wonder how many of them are even floating around at this point.
Probably not very many of the PC Engine stuff.
Probably like
I didn't
one
look.
in a museum in New York somewhere, and one in Japan.
Belongs in a museum.
There's that Nintendo museum in, I think it's on Times Square actually.
The one that has the Game Boy?
I think they have a lot of Game Boys. It's a Nintendo museum.
Well, sorry, the Game Boy that got blown up but still runs. That's the Game Boy.
I guess so. They probably have it. It sounds like them. It's just a guy who loves Nintendo, I think, and he has purchased he's essentially just like the collector of Nintendo stuff. And you just
so it's not what
go there and like trade old games for newer games and stuff like that.
Okay, I think Nintendo Store or something I'm talking about.
I don't know. I'll tell you. I plan to visit it in November. I'll tell you.
Okay. Sounds good. We'll report back to you guys. Keep listening.
Keep listening. I'll tell you in November when I get back from New York if he has the blown up Nintendo cartridge.
All right. So Snatcher is essentially like a text adventure game where you play as Gillian
Seed. Yes.
You're a detective who has amnesia, has no freaking memory.
You and your wife have amnesia.
Yes.
It's not just you. It's you and your separated wife.
And God, this game made me laugh a lot. But you play as a detective, or you play as a junker. You're called. You woke up 3 years ago. You were in the army. They kind of trained you, and then you get a job. A junker, essentially, a detective that's looking for snatchers. Snatchers are essentially androids.
Yeah, you're essentially a Blade Runner.
Yeah,
yes.
And these snatchers are taking human people, and replacing them with themselves, with robotic ones.
So it's got a little bit of Blade Runner, a little bit of like Terminator, a little bit of Invasion of the Body Snatchers going on.
Blade Runner's all I need. A little bit of.
It's almost like They Live too. Also.
Yes, They Live as well. The androids look exactly like the They Live androids.
And like especially. Like when he gets in the game, you start and he's talking with the one other detective who works in this agency. That's the other thing I thought was kind of funny. There's this Gillian and Gibson, both the guys that worked.
I think some of them were killed, is what happened.
Oh, there were other detectives, I guess.
Yeah, they were killed off by the Snatchers.
You're not just like a random detective. You're a random detective in Neo Kobe. Yeah, Neo Kobe beef. You're in Neo Kobe, which is not Japan. It's a man-made island off the coast of Japan.
Surrounded. It's all like a melting pot of different nations and people is what it's supposed to be like.
Half the world's population
it was killed by what was it? Like a biological weapon?
I think it was called like the pre-alpha virus or something. It goes over very quickly in the beginning where it's like...
Was that Japan?
The entire world was destroyed by it. Yeah. The entire world... Half the population of the entire world was destroyed by this virus. It mainly affected like Eurasia.
So in other words, Thanos got the gauntlet. What you're trying to tell me?
Yeah, more or less.
I did not catch this. I must have not been. I was paying attention.
It's a very quick footnote at the very beginning of the game. It's like you have amnesia, also this virus.
Because I have
Lucifer Alpha.
Lucifer Alpha. That's right.
Because I actually had headphones in and had the music on this entire game. Listened to everything.
Yeah, you have to.
That's a good soundtrack.
It was.
And you get all the nice little noises. You get like the Metal Gear codec equivalent in this game.
They did reuse a bunch of sound effects from other games, it felt like, or other things that went on in this game.
Oh yeah.
This
is an incredibly Kojima game. It's got got Metal Gear. Your partner is a Metal Gear 2.
Metal Gear?
Yeah, and you get like the Blade Runner gun, basically. It's like instead of a revolver, though, it's like a Colt 45. It's like a Colt 1911. Well, the Blade Runner handgun is like notable for being like a revolver that they kind of like worked up in the prop department, and it feels like Kojima was like, this was when he was against revolvers, I guess, and he was like, "No, semi-autos."
You like revolvers later?
Yeah. This was pre his revolver fascination, and it was just a like Colt 1911.
Oh, but when you first meet Metal Gear, which is your little blue assistant, which I posted tons of pictures of, if you're following the Facebook page, because I love this Metal Gear. I love the fact when you introduce him, he's like, I call Metal Gear based off that weapon in the I think the 90s or something, a long time ago, and I'm like,
He bases your AI partner, your friendly partner, off of a terrible weapon that was used in like World War III. This is also a post World War III world, by the way.
Yeah, I don't know if
another thing that happened.
I didn't catch that either. Where
was
I
during the game? In 2010, there was World War III. That lasted like half a year, I think.
That sounds accurate, though.
It was something that was like they call it like the half a year war or something. It's another like little tiny footnote at the very beginning of the game.
I must have not been paying enough attention in the beginning because I missed a bunch of this stuff. So
it's all totally unimportant until the very end of the game.
I think I was still suffering from Beautiful Joe when I started Snatcher. So I started Snatcher Saturday after I said fuck it on Beautiful Joe right before we recorded Beautiful Joe the day before. So I think that's why.
Such a different game too.
Oh yeah, I needed this. I needed a nice read. I mean, I used a guide for this game completely. You don't need to. But I like just reading. I mean, after a while, once I understood what I was doing, I stopped. Because like this game is a lot of, oh, look at this item. Okay, now investigate this item. Oh, look at this item again. Oh, investigate again. Okay.
I should say, I also got really mad at Mike when he's like, oh, I'm using a guide. I'm like, God damn it, Mike. This game is what it is.
This is not the game for a guide.
It's just
a text adventure. It'd be like if we decided to play like Cork and you were like, I'm going to use a guide for it.
I would. Anything.
Do I go north or do I go west? I don't know.
I enjoy games more, even though like after a little bit I kind of was using the guide a lot less, just to kind of gauge where I was at in the game so far. I was
the game itself is basically the guide for the game. Like Metal Gear is with you the entire time, telling you pretty much what to do.
Yeah. I also had to start over because I used the saves in the game, and then it didn't actually save anything. So I went to reload my save. There was no save.
Yeah,
I was a little angry about that.
But we should say you basically like it's basically a text adventure. So you have your basic commands. Usually it's like move, look, investigate, ask, or like.
There's a few more sometimes, like hit on girl, stuff like that. That's in there too.
Did you hit on the girl to the point that you got killed?
What? What are you talking about?
That happens?
Yeah, that's a random encounter. I think it's the first time you're in like the Times Square type area. You're in like the city center.
Okay, since you brought up, it's called Alton Square. There's a joke that is definitely from the 80s in there that you can find that would not, if they republish this game, they would have to change that joke.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if I should say it, but yeah, there's a very inappropriate joke in there that is not.
Well, you're basically a horn dog detective.
Yes, I mean, you both trying to sleep with everybody, even the 17-year-old.
You are simultaneously super upset and like that your wife and you are separated and you miss her and you want to be back with her, and at the same time you're just hitting on every new woman that comes into your life.
It's true.
I miss my wife. Oh, who are you with the blue hair? My wife has blonde hair.
I think there's even a.
He hits on women by bringing up his wife.
It's true.
There is that scene, like the scene I'm talking about, where they say something inappropriate. He's hitting on a couple different girls, and if you keep picking the option, because they call him a freak or they just ignore him. This one woman, he's like, my wife died. She's like, oh. He's like, I don't remember who I am. She's like, oh. And then Metal Gear says a few inappropriate things, and they run away, and he's like, I'm just lying. And I'm like, what? Really, game? I mean, this character is just.
Yeah. Apparently, there's a girl you can hit on so much that she's like, all right, baby, let's go home. And you find out that she's a snatcher and she kills you.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He deserves that. There is one part when you go to your apartment for the first time and you call your wife and you don't have to. You can talk to her, I mean, once, but you don't actually have to really talk to her. But if you go through the dialogue, there's one where he's like, I see a roach on you. She's like, where? He's like, under the sheet. Throw the sheet off. And you realize he's just trying to get her naked. And she's like, there's nothing there, is it? He's like, no, there's not.
No, I'm just so lonely.
And you can ask her out on a date. And she's like, no, I don't think I want to do that, Gillian. Oh, man.
He's like the loneliest man in the world. It's so funny. Like at some point after spoilers, Jean-Jacques gets horrifically murdered. You have to go talk to his daughter. He's hitting on his daughter.
He gets his head ripped off and put down next to his body upside down. Like,
which is a great sequence that we're going to have to talk about, definitely. But he's talking to that guy's daughter about how he was murdered, and he's like, "Oh, fancy place you got here. So you all alone? Like, you want to come back to mine?" And it's like, dude, her dad was supposed to be your partner, and you fucked up and got him killed, and now you're hitting on her? Come on.
A young Hideo Kojima writing.
It hasn't changed. It hasn't changed.
It hasn't.
I did love that scene.
He's gotten better at being perverted.
Slightly better.
Got more talent. Well, I never played Metal Gear Solid 5, but I've seen enough stuff about Quiet that I don't think it changed.
Oh, yeah. It's all total bullshit where they're like, oh, well, that's like her character. It's like, nah, it's just because Kojima's a perv.
We need to play all the Metal Gears on the show so I can finally play Metal Gear Solid 5 today.
That's a hefty undertaking.
I know.
I mean, I'll do it. I will gladly do it. But maybe not 4, because 4 is long as fuck. But
4 is only long if you watch the cutscenes.
I don't... You have to watch the cutscenes to understand what's happening in the game.
You still won't understand what's happening. Okay. But that scene, after you go to the headquarters and you meet Mika, you meet the chief, you meet, God, what the hell is who? Harry, yeah. We'll talk about him later.
Harry
more detail. But which
sounds like it should be a like innuendo or something.
It is. Like, well, it's something, all right.
Oh, but, right, the Harry Bensons.
Yeah, that part comes later. But you have a few different characters who work at this headquarters. And you kind of can pick a different option. Like you can move different rooms in the place, and you really can't do a whole lot. But it's kind of how this whole game works. It gives you, throughout the game, they'll give you different places to go to, and you got to figure out how to progress the story, usually. For me, I just read the guide.
Right.
The game does tell you.
It does have a little investigating. Metal Gear is basically your guide. So it's like, it's a dark room. Like, turn on your light, Metal Gear. Oh, I can't because of something. Okay, well, turn it on later when we come back to this room.
Or
and then
like,
when it turns on, it's like, it's like, oh, investigate using the flashlight.
What about if you're in a dark room and you hear, achoo!
Yeah.
It's actually,
also an important feature of this game.
Yeah.
You know what? This game actually reminds me, I was just thinking about it right now, of Maniac Mansion. It's a lot like that. Did anyone play Maniac Mansion?
I don't think anyone played Maniac Mansion, inside or outside of this podcast.
I know a lot of people that have, but no one on this show. So.
It made me think of like I used to play all those like CSI games, because CSI for whatever reason released like a game with every season of the show.
Yes, I own 3 of them.
My cousin got like all of them. So whenever she would watch me, I'd like just play CSI on her computer. They're all it's very similar. Like there's a lot of actual investigating and like actually having to take down notes in this game, which was probably my favorite part of the game, to be honest. I really like the mystery element of it all. It made me really want more games like that nowadays.
It has a really good story. Like we're going over, but it is still it's a really good story, and it's very entertaining for some reason.
It's built up in a really effective way. I think it's not necessarily
I thought it was entertaining.
Great story, but
I liked it a lot. This game. If I do a top 50 list someday, this could actually edge it up near the top, somewhere near the 50 mark. But it was something else.
In terms of like writing, it made me, and I don't know, it's like the writing and the voice acting. I guess the colors too.
Colors are good.
All I could think about during this game was Outlaw Star. And it's like there's a voice actress in the game who plays.
All right, keep going.
I'm gonna start doing it now.
See, it's contagious. I do see what you mean, though. Like, it's very bright colors. A lot of the characters have different colored hair, such as Katrina with blue hair, such as whatever the hell that girl's name with the green hair we'll talk about later. I mean, there's lots of different colored hair people, and there's just a lot of different colors. Like, Metal Gear is blue, a bright blue. I mean...
And you get, like, pop jazz in there, like the crazy soundtrack, which is great. And the voice actress for your wife and the fortune teller. She plays both the wife and the fortune teller.
There's a fortune teller?
Yeah, the hacker chick.
Yeah,
I don't think I went there.
Oh, well, I think you have to go.
I don't think I did that.
I think you have to. I think it's necessary, isn't it?
Who's the hacker chick?
She's got like the dreadlocks.
I'm pretty sure that's necessary.
Yeah.
Or if I did, I have no recollection of it.
Yeah, depending on how well you know Outlaw Star, you might remember because her voice sounds exactly like the chick who plays Aisha Clan in Outlaw Star, to the point that I had to like look it up. I had to look it up multiple times to see if these were all the same voice actors, because a lot of them sound like Outlaw Star characters. That kind of like high-pitched, like childish, Like, this is gonna make it sound like Outlaw Star has terrible voice acting. It's just like a classic anime, but it's like the childish, like whiny, high pitched voices.
Outlaw Star is a great anime, by the way.
Outlaw Star is amazing, and I'm going to watch it tonight now because of this game.
I have no idea who you're talking about with this hacker chick. I'm even Googling it. It's not going too well, by the way.
Well, she's really. I think her name in the game is Fortune Teller, but you find out she's a hacker.
Don't think I talked to her. I think I skipped that.
I think you have to talk to her.
Yeah, I think so too.
I remember Mika. I remember the dancer.
She's only in 2 parts of the game where she offers to read your fortune in the beginning, and like she tells you all this stuff that like she shouldn't know about you, and you walk away and Metal Gear's like, you idiot, she scanned your irises and all that stuff's on file. She's a hacker.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think I ever did this.
I think you have to, because you have to go back. You have somebody.
No, I never met her. I'm 100% positive. I just finally found an image of her. I never met her.
Don't you have to pay her too to like do your fortune or something?
I think so. Yeah, you give her money to do your fortune. Apparently there's a different way to beat this game that I didn't know about.
Because I was reading, so I knew where to. I just kind of went because you're supposed to call phone numbers in this game a lot. Well, I just looked up and it said call this number. I went and I called the number.
Oh yeah, I think she gives you the number that you should call. Okay. She tells you where to go at some point.
So I never met her.
You missed Aisha Clan then, because she's great.
I'm a little sad now. Oh, that's another thing we should say. This game, a lot of this game is voiced over. Like a lot of it is.
Yeah, quite a bit.
It's really nice.
For a game in '88, a lot more than you'd expect.
Well, maybe it wasn't in '88 that version, but this version is.
I think it was in '88 as well. I think the Japanese version had a lot of voice acting.
It was.
Okay, never mind then. That's impressive.
Yeah, and the voices are great too. Everyone is really chewing the scenery. With their voices.
It's better voiceover than like you almost became a Jill sandwich. I mean, better than that.
I mean, yeah, they go for it. It's the guy who plays I keep wanting to call him Harry for some reason. The guy who plays Gillian Seed. Gillian, also a reference to Outlaw Star potentially. I don't know. It can't make me think of it.
Oh, because his last name can't you remember. All of a sudden I'm drawing a blank.
Gilliam with an M is the name of the ship in Outlaw Star.
Oh.
Gilliam. So every time they said his name, I was just like, Outlaw Star. I gotta go watch this show.
I'm gonna look up the year. But as we were saying, like this game kind of really shows you what it is pretty quick. Outlaw Star came out in '98, by the way, so maybe Outlaw Star was inspired by this, huh? Okay. When you're in the abandoned factory, and that's when this game kind of shows you what it is. Like you find your partner, and his head, like we were saying, his head is ripped off, which is gruesome as hell. And then you sneeze. We were kind of talking about a little bit because in this game, whenever a Snatcher is nearby you, you find out that they produce some chemical and people start sneezing.
Snow 9.
And I love that scene where as you're investigating the body, all of a sudden you see two little motion detector goes off, which is always cool. It's like and you see 2 bodies run past down the hallway, like it makes that sound too. It was so cool. I love.
It's 2 people way in the distance, and they go they pass by a doorway, and and you're like, oh, who is that? Maybe I should go chase them because it's an '80s game still, so it's still gotta be a little. It's gotta be a little weird with the right.
They just ripped off my partner's head, but let's go down there with no backup and see what's down there.
That's a long sequence too, because you go to the factory, you go in and find his Metal Gear, his little assistant,
Metal Gear.
Which
I forgot his name. Has a name.
Little John. Because he's Jean-Jacques Gibson, which is a weird name, and was making me think of like Les Mis for some reason. So I can imagine Jean-Jacques being a Les Mis character. And you find Little John, and it's like completely smashed. And then you find his body, and it's just like his head's been torn off his torso. And that's like even that by itself is a long sequence because you do all of this. Like Metal Gear is basically a mobile forensic unit. So it's like, oh, he has like hair. He's holding hair in his hand. Let's analyze that. He's got skin under his fingernails. Let's analyze that. He's got organic matter within his stomach because, everybody does. That's what stomachs are made of.
He ate buffalo.
Yeah, you find out he ate buffalo. That's a pretty important thing that happens later.
It feels like it shouldn't be, but this game is very much a detective story, which is what makes it so cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like you go through his pockets, you find like keys and stuff. You're doing actual investigating. You find a body. It's like, all right, let's get to the bottom of this body first before we do anything else. Which I really enjoyed that.
Oh, and we were talking about a little earlier because you, after all this shit happens and you find the dead body, you go talk to his daughter. Were you hitting on the 17-year-old?
Is she only 17? That's creepy.
Yeah, she's 17.
Oh god. Yeah, and you have to, the way that you have to let her, you get her to let you in the house, and the way you do that is you show her you show her your junker badge, and she's like, oh, anyone can get one of those, and then you tell her you tell her her name or something.
You tell her her name, and then she's
like, oh, anyone can find out my name. What's like unique about me? And you have to look up. You have to look up on like the Junker database that she has a birthmark on her inner thigh.
Yep. And you got to say birthmark, heart, and thigh to get it to move on. It's just Oh god.
Yeah, it's like,
I mean, this game is just oozes oddness.
Sexuality.
Oh yeah, like.
This is the most sexual game we've ever played.
Everybody. And I posted pictures of Katrina in the Facebook page, and you guys kind of get an idea of what we're talking about.
Get out of the way, Parasite Eve. There's a new most sexual Japanese game in town.
There's more, I'm sure. This is the most sexualized game we played so far in the show.
But it's just like the idea that is so funny to me of a guy walking into the house, like you being like I'm investigating your dad's murder. Oh, by the way, your dad's dead. Don't worry, I knew him.
Yeah,
well, I was going to know him. Anyway, you've got a birthmark on your inner thigh. Let me in the house.
Like, it's my fault he died. Like, what?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You do the Overblood Raz Carsey thing where you just immediately start blaming yourself for this death you had nothing to do with.
Is it bad I don't get that joke for some reason? It's like I didn't watch the whole Overblood replay. Weird.
You should, because,
that's how we met.
He's just constantly blaming himself for the death of a very important character in that series, which
we're playing Overblood eventually on this show.
Well, I won't spoil it until we play Overblood.
But we also forgot something else, is that when you do run into Snatchers, part of the paraphernalia for this game was you could actually have a light gun connected to your system.
So I wish we had
shoot them.
Awesome. I like she said, I wish we had that.
I knew how much fun it would have been to have, like, there's a few different scenes in this game.
How much money would you have? How would you have had to drop on this game to get?
Oh God! Okay, you'd have to buy a CRTV. I'd have to buy a Sega CD. Buy the game. Find the gun. Oh yeah, it didn't
buy
happen.
a Sega for the Sega CD.
Oh yeah.
Easily like a $700 purchase at least.
And there's probably less than 30 minutes. Well, no, there's probably less than 10 minutes of the shooting gallery part.
Oh, yeah. And I can only imagine, as difficult as that part of the game was, that it would have been even harder with the light gun.
Only a couple are hard.
Yeah.
The first one
it does this weird thing where it always makes the reticle stay in the center of the screen. So you kind of have to like force it out to shoot whatever's.
Back. Yeah. It's Nintendo 64 logic where the reticle is always going to be in the center and you have to push it to the side.
Well, the enemies are never in the center. Well, sometimes. I mean, mainly you fight little spider bots, or you like the fights I like when you fight Snatchers, which are robotic humans. Oh, and you got to shoot them in the head. Those scenes were. Oh man, my heart was beating fast. I'm hitting their hit. I loved this game.
I was so grateful playing this game. I think I can say I'm the only person in history who can say this. I was so grateful playing Snatcher, a game that came out in 1988. That I played Mass Effect 3 right before I played it. Because there's a little mini game in the Citadel DLC that's exactly the same as that shooting sequence, and it prepared me for it.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's like a little mini game in a casino or like an arcade in the Citadel DLC of Mass Effect 3. And I was like, every time I play that DLC, I have to perfect the arcade because I have to. And so it's the same exact game, and I was like, oh God, I hate this so much. Thank God I'm done with this. And then we started playing Snatcher, and I was like, thank God I got the practice in.
And there's also little scenes too, like where the whole grid will come up, and you're ready to shoot a bunch of shit, but then you just have to shoot a Snatcher once, and it ends.
You got to hit the A button to pull out your gun too when that screen comes up.
That was like that was when moments like that were when I felt like this was the Kojima game. Like this is 100% a Kojima game. He loves doing that. He loves playing with. For those who haven't played a Kojima game, what's wrong with you? But yeah, Kojima's staple of all Metal Gear games and Kojima games is that he loves to like play around with game mechanics and turn them into story instances. Because at the very end of the game, the grid comes up and it like prepares you to get ready to shoot, and then it goes away and you realize you're in a cutscene.
Yeah, it's like a QuickTime event almost.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, for the 80s.
It's the first QuickTime event. A QuickTime event for the 80s.
There's actually a really
That's
cool
another
part.
quote. A quote for our show. QuickTime event.
Oh God.
That
There's
sounds
actually
like
a really cool
awesome
part
band
where there's a really cool part where the grid comes up for a second after you enter a room and there's a Snatcher body on the wall and you're like, oh, is there any sign readings, Metal Gear? And he's like, no, it's immobile, it's not moving. Yeah. And you pan away from it and then you pan back and the body's gone.
That part,
I love that.
Yeah, there is some real like horror. This isn't a very long game. It's like 6 hours, maybe
6 hours. Yeah, I think 6 hours is more reasonable.
If you haven't played it before, it's a 6 hour game. If you have, it's only like a 3 hour game.
I would say 4 or 5.
Maybe 4. Yeah.
Even with me knowing what I was doing because I was reading, it still took me a few hours. It still took a little while to get through it.
That's why I love this game because it's only realistically a 4 to 6 hour game. But you have like all these investigation sequences, there's shooting sequences, there's horror aspects. You've got all this story packed in there. It feels like there's so much going on that, I mean, like this game did not take me long to play, but I was like, oh man, I feel like I need to take a break after I played it. I've done so much.
Yeah, I mean, it's broken into 3 acts. I mean, so it gives, and it does, like there are reasons why you would need to kind of take a break because it can even though it's so simple, it gets a little intense sometimes.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
A lot of reading too, and listening. Yeah. And there's no subtitles.
There's full cutscenes
when they talk. I mean, there's lots of stuff you read, but when they're actually in a voiceover cutscene, there's no subtitles. You don't have a choice but to listen.
You don't really need them though, because it sounds pretty good too. Like,
yeah,
like you. Well, you would need them because you don't like to listen to games.
Not normally, but I didn't have a choice with this game, so I did listen to everything.
With some of these old games though, like subtitles are a necessity because it sounds like garbage. But this game, the voiceover is really well done.
Oh.
But everything sounds really good.
It's like a Kojima game.
It's a Kojima game. It's like a Kojima game.
It is a Kojima game.
It's like a Metal Gear.
Metal Gear? Like when you go
Metal Gear.
And the way we talk about the Buffalo, and you have to go to a strip club called Outer Heaven.
Outer Heaven is in this game.
And I was like, really? You couldn't come up with a different name? Like you're like, I made a game last year with a base called Outer Heaven. I got it.
I thought briefly about going back and playing this game a second time and trying to write down all the references I spotted. And I was just like, I can't do that. There's so many. Every scene has a reference to something in it.
Yeah.
Because in the bar in Outer Heaven, isn't there like 10 Konami characters in the bar just sitting there?
Simon talking to Dracula. And they're all wearing masks. You have to wear a costume to get into the bar. So
that's right.
That's why they're wearing the mask. It isn't, but there's Goemon from the Legend of Mystical Ninja games, which probably none of you two have not played. There's Sparkster from a Genesis game.
I would swear, and I looked it up. Mystery Science Theater came out before this game. I had to look at it to see. I swore I saw one of the characters from Mystery Science Theater in the chief's office, like on the side of his chair. It looks like one of the little robots from Mystery Science Theater, like to a cue. And I was like, that's from Mystery Science Theater, isn't it? I don't know. I was like, there's no way that Kojima, a young Kojima right out of college, was watching Mystery Science Theater and putting it in his games.
Highly unlikely. Especially,
it's Kojima, so nothing's unlikely.
Yeah, good point. Good.
But I was like, there's like, what are the like? How would Kojima have seen Mystery Science Theater when it first came out? I was like, you know what? I can't say he did. I think it was Tom Servo. I saw not Tom Servo. Who's the other one? Crow T Robot.
Also, Mystery Science Theater started here in Minnesota, where I'm from, where I live in. So,
hey,
here's your fun fact.
Can you get who's on it now? Patton Oswalt. Can you get Patton Oswalt on an episode?
No, I don't think I'd be able to.
Are they still filming?
But that would be cool. That would be cool.
Fun fact about the game, though, that is just like every other Kojima game, that Konami actually made him cut his story in half. So this game is only half of what he really wanted to put inside of it.
That's too bad.
This is one of the few games where I'm like, I wish Kojima was able to tell his whole story.
Yeah, me too. One thing we haven't mentioned yet is there's a scene when you go to this guy's house, this guy's apartment. And he's not home, but his wife is home.
And Rutger Hauer's apartment.
Pretty much. Pretty much. That guy does look just like Rutger Hauer.
He is 100% Rutger Hauer from the Runner.
And you go in the house, and I didn't notice at first, like when she's talking to you, she's covering half her face, and it didn't even dawn on me when I was looking at him, listening. And there's even one line where she's like, my husband hasn't been wanting to spend any time with me lately. I wonder if something's wrong, because you're saying, you start talking. I think you tell her that you think her husband might be a snatcher or something, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the whole time she's just hiding her face, and I think you go in the bathroom, you do something, next thing you know, she's opening her mouth and there's a laser cannon inside her mouth. Like, uh-oh. That scene was great.
Yeah, her face is all torn up and you're like, that's... She does the classic, like, movie villain thing. Because for those who don't know, Kojima was a film student. He loved film. And it does the classic film thing where, like, she presents a danger and she's about to kill you, but she gives you enough time to explain what's happening first.
Yep.
Yes.
She opens her mouth and is charging her cannon that will kill you in one shot, but you have enough time for Metal Gear to say, look, her face is scratched up. Those must be the skin samples we found under Jean-Jacques' hands.
I think when someone's shooting you, who gives a fuck? What? Shoot her.
Shoot first and ask questions later is not in this game's wheelhouse.
And I do like the fact, like like on the screen when you're trying to shoot them, they move around a whole bunch, but you got to shoot them in the head or it doesn't count.
Until random Hughes shows up.
Oh no, that's a little bit after. After you kill her, her body's on the ground.
I mean, shoot first, ask questions later. He's a shoot first, ask questions later kind of guy.
And then you go in the bathroom. Something happens. You're looking in a mirror, and all of a sudden, like you said in a traditional movie, there's someone. Rutger Hauer is looking at you in the mirror too. And I love that he starts choking the hell out of him.
Because Gillian Seed is a moron.
He is a little detached.
he is like actively trying to get himself killed, where he's like, you go into the apartment and Metal Gear even points out like, oh, there's somebody in here. I don't know why I'm doing the Metal Gear voice.
It's fine.
Oh, there's somebody in here. This is more what he sounds like.
Yeah, that is more.
I don't know.
Gillian, what are you doing?
There's somebody in here, Gillian.
There's somebody in here, Gillian. There's somebody in here, Gillian.
I would have thought that would have made more sense.
Oh, it's Rex. Oh, no. He's like, I've got something on my motion tracker. There's somebody in the apartment. And you're going around looking for the guy. And you walk into the bathroom and you just sit there staring at the mirror. It's like, gee, I sure hope somebody doesn't sneak up on me right now.
And that's how you meet the bounty hunter that you get taught, that you hear about earlier after you're going through the dead guy's stuff.
Random.
I don't understand. What the hell kind of first name is Random?
Well, it was very confusing to me.
Random.
Because there's a character named Random in the Stalker series. That's his nickname because he couldn't pick a nickname, and so they just called him Random.
That makes more sense in this game.
Yeah.
But this game, he's random. But it works. It's like a weird, like 80s name. I could see that being in Blade Runner or like Akira.
And you shoot them. And when you first, as you're getting choked, Random shoots the Rutger Hauer lookalike right in the head, blows him up, and then, I mean, that's how you first meet him. That was a cool scene, though. I really did.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I was more confused by his last name, Hughes, until the very end of the game when they explain his name.
Yeah, they wait a while.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if we should even bring up the very end of the game because it's so weird.
We can skip it. I mean, we'll go over it briefly when we get there.
One of the things I remember too is that when you're in that bathroom, which is like you inspect the toilet and you're like, oh, it's weird, it's kind of dry or whatever. And later on, you find out that the Snatchers, because something we didn't mention was that they're receptive to sunlight, so their skin can't handle it.
One of the key things
they're not vampires, but they just can't handle the sun.
Right, which is one of the reasons why they're trying to perfect, like they're kidnapping scientists and trying to perfect their skin and take over the world and all that. But one of the things that I thought was kind of retarded, but funny at the same time, is that they're using an old subway system to get around during the day. Yeah. And the ladders from the subway go right up into their bathtubs.
Into a third floor apartment.
Into a third floor apartment.
Yeah.
Let's not forget that part.
Wait, it's even dumber than that because in order to prevent people from inspecting the bathtub and finding out that there's a ladder in there, they fill the bathtub up with water and leave it.
Yes.
And when they need to go down in there, they empty the bathtub and use the ladder and then fill it back up with water. Now, let me ask you something. If you go into somebody's apartment, let's say you're investigating a murder, You go into somebody's apartment and you see an empty bathtub. Would you be less likely to inspect that or a bathtub that is full of water with nobody in the apartment?
Well, if I saw a bathtub full of water, you want to reach your hand in and pull it out, then a zombie might come grab you. I'm sorry, wrong game.
If I see a bathtub full of water in an apartment, I'm more likely to be like, huh, that's weird.
Well,
just leave their bathtub full of water all the time.
We should mention that Gillian doesn't really act like a police officer, though. There's a moment.
Well, he's not a police officer. He's a junker.
Yeah. There's a moment earlier in the game where he's investigating possibilities of these two people who might be a snatcher, and he finds this like drugged out hippie guy, and the guy's like, I only have like crystal or whatever. It's a drug in the game, and he's like
crystal ice or something.
Yeah, ice, and Gillian's like, I don't give a shit about that. I just want to know if you're a snatcher.
He's so single-minded. It's great.
And the guy's an air surfer or something stupid. Wherever the hell
he's a surfer. Yeah, it's important to the story that he's a surfer because you have to go to his apartment first. If you go to, I can't remember the name of the guy you're looking for. The Rucker Howard snatcher. Let's just call him Rucker Howard. You try to go to Rucker Howard's apartment first because you get like so. Let me go down the plot of this game. You go to the strip club, and she gives you like an idea of what the guy looks like, and then from there you have to go back to the police department, the junker headquarters, and do like a layout and figure out what the guy looks like. It comes up with two people in the city that are possible matches. One, the actual guy that it definitely looks like is only a 60% match, and you're like, well, that's the guy. Because he looks like Rutger Hauer. That's 100% the guy. But if you go to his apartment first, nobody will answer the door. So you have to leave and go back to Surfer Dude's apartment. And you're like, it's like he's definitely not the Snatcher. Because he's like got... One of the things they tell you is that in order to prevent their skin decaying is that Snatchers will usually have suntan lotion.
Right.
And he's got suntan lotion, but it's also right next to a surfboard. So you think, as a detective, you'd be like, well, he's clearly just a surfer. But no, he's like, shoots the guy. Well, the guy opens the door with a gun. And so he's on the ground bleeding out. And you're like, I know you're a goddamn snatcher. I'm going to blow your head off. And he's like, nah, man, nah.
I'm a druggie.
I'm just a surfer, dude. Well, I guess I'll let you go. It's like,
it's so stupid, but it was so much fun to play through and listen. I don't know why. I was really impressed how much I enjoyed this game.
It's great.
That whole face thing though, where you have to do the like face comparison thing, I actually enjoyed that as well.
I had a lot of fun with that. Yeah,
I
it does try to serve as
following
as like you're doing clues. You're really following up on an investigation.
Yeah, it feels like you're doing real police work. This made me think I would like. Because this game is so anime. There's so much going on that has like a lot of... It looks like an anime. It feels like an anime. And all I could think was like... I was like, oh, God, I really want like a good Psycho-Pass video game or something. I want a video game where I can play as like an anime detective hunting down a killer.
Found a game for you.
Oh, yeah.
Another thing I wanted to ask, did any of you guys do the dumb scene when you're having a lunch break walking around Alton Plaza where you get the Neo Kobe pizza?
Oh, yes. Oh, my God. That was so confusing.
What I don't understand, first, the Neo Kobe pizza, you take a pizza and you put it in like hot oil or something and it rises up.
It's soup. You take
soup.
It's like the Pokemon scene where they're like, oh, we just love these jelly donuts and they're eating rice balls. It felt like that, where he's like, have you ever had the famous Neo Kobe pizza? Because you're talking to just a street urchin at this, or a street merchant at this point, where it's like he's trying to like sell you this pizza. And Metal Gear's like, it's the best pizza in Neo Kobe City. We're famous for it. And despite, I mean, I know you have amnesia, but presumably you've lived in Neo Kobe for 3 years at this point. Yeah. You're like, I've never heard of Neo Kobe pizza before. The most famous thing that this city is known for.
Hey, no sense.
So you gotta like, it's like a whole break from the game. It's like the intermission where it's like, oh, this is the fun like joke episode where we're gonna just do pizzas.
Well, the music's also right before things get real serious too.
It's true. It's like a nice little refresher. It's like, yeah, take your pizza and dip it in the stew. And you put apparently. I'm sorry I sound so dumbfounded. This is just so weird.
It's stupid. It's funny as hell. But it's stupid.
You take
It's like Blade Runner.
and you put the pizza in this. Well, there's even a Blade Runner thing later where he's eating ramen. That's a Blade Runner reference.
Yeah.
But you take the pizza. I don't know if it's a full pizza or a slice of pizza or like a little pizza morsel, and you put it in the soup and you let it drop down into the soup. And after like 3 seconds, it'll float back up to the top of the soup, and then you eat it.
It's so stupid.
But when you do this, and also Metal Gear is eating pizza with you. He's a
That's
robot.
the part I didn't understand. I'm like, and because your pizza gets ruined, at least in my
No,
it
it doesn't get ruined, Mike. It disappears.
Oh yeah, it doesn't float up, and it's like, oh, I guess you don't get a pizza.
And that's like the end of it, where it's like, your pizza didn't float back up. I guess you screwed it up. And it's like, how? I don't understand the mechanics of this
Like
pizza soup.
And then why did the robot eat the pizza? Why didn't you just take his? Why are you even ordering a pizza in the first place? That's what I didn't understand.
Multiple times in this game, the robot is eating food with you, and it's so clearly just a robot.
It's awesome.
It's so bizarre.
And then I think we kind of cover most of.
And this is in the middle of a game where people are getting their heads ripped off and like dying and being like there's skinned humans you find later. Like that's in the middle of all this. It's a joke. It's a robot scene.
Act 2 is when the game starts getting real dark. Like Act 2 is where you start finding a couple of things. One, you find out that's more Act 3, but Act 2 is where in Act 1 you find out that there's a hospital where they're getting skin treatments done because their skin will get cancer, so it's defective. And that's what makes these Snatchers not 100%. And that's why they only come out during the winter mainly, and that's why they're out at night.
The only thing the Snatchers are vulnerable to is the sun. And it gives them melanoma and kills them. That is the fatal flaw. These advanced robots taking over society. Melanoma.
That was kind of funny. But okay, so you find out there's this hospital. And first you go to a veterinary hospital, which is just, again, more joke because this game likes his jokes a lot, which I did laugh at, by the way.
You spend a while there, too.
And it makes you.
You gotta talk to all these people about their pets, and there's a woman in the background with a penguin on a leash.
That's true.
It's so weird.
And then after that, you get to the real. You go to another hospital, and there's a couple small puzzles that you find the actual Snatcher hospital headquarters.
Yeah,
right.
And that was cool. Like that's when I want to say when I got around that part, I didn't want to stop playing. I just wanted to finish the game.
Yeah, and that's when you start finding out that people you may have met on your journey so far or people you're working with may already be Snatchers because you don't know who's who now. And you start to learn that as you go along,
and
especially when you get to the hospital.
Paranoia comes in.
And there's a really cool part. I thought it was a cool part. After you do a couple things, you fight a broken down Snatcher, or a Snatcher that doesn't have skin on it yet. You go into a morgue, and you can tell these Snatchers don't give a shit about bodies. There's just 3 bodies just laying around that are all but one is mostly decomposed.
Yeah, it's just like replicants in Blade Runner. They do not care about anyone else besides themselves.
Yeah. It's like a couple skeletons and a body covered in maggots,
and they show you the maggots too. Like as you're sitting there investigating, you see the maggots moving around. This
is like a 4 or 6 hour game. This is right after a pizza soup joke break, and a woman has a penguin on a leash. This is like immediately after that sequence.
For levity.
Oh God.
You gotta love Kojima. He hits you with the levity, and then he's like, "Bam! Corpses everywhere."
And I just love it. I mean, I knew what was gonna happen as he's sitting there examining each body. He's like the first one, like, "Oh, this is the guy, the Rutger Hauer guy," and the next one is some CEO of a company, and then they're doing a third one. You're sitting there, you're talking, and it's like
the hospital director.
How's it hot? I guess
it goes. It's Rutger Hauer and then his girlfriend, because they give a little dialogue after each one. It's like, "Oh, this is." I'm so sorry that we can't remember his name. This is Rutger Hauer, and I think Random was there with you too. So he's like, "Yeah,
he shows up." Yeah,
and then he's like his girlfriend, and it's like this is the director of the hospital, Ching Shin Cho, who Gillian can't remember his name. That's like another running joke. He just doesn't understand Chinese at all. Chinese is also a big factor in this game.
Even when he meets the replicant of Ching Ching Cho, he's like, "Oh, look, it's that guy again."
Yeah. It's like a weird super like this game really doesn't like Chinese people.
It's a strange game.
A joke where you're like, you find these weird Chinese characters, again, a very Blade Runner sequence, and you're like, Metal Gear, you know Chinese, and he's Metal Gear, the robot's like, the only Chinese I know is wonton. You're like, what the fuck? what does Kojima have against the Chinese?
We're not going to go into that.
It's so out of place. It's so weird.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, fourth guy's
the replicants, we should say that they're not just replacing any regular people. Like, I mean, they have to kind of, but they're specifically going after people who are of power. So
they've got a purpose. They've got a goal.
They're trying to infiltrate the governments, essentially.
That's when it kind of stops being Blade Runner and becomes more like Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yeah.
And they
Suddenly
they've got a goal to take over.
Is it in the hospital? No, I'm trying to think. Is it the hospital where you find a bunch of Snatchers, or is that the later part?
That's the third game. That's in the Kremlin.
Okay, third act. Okay,
yeah.
And I did like that part. And then as you're doing the last body, you find out that it could be one of two people. It could be either Harry Benson is the guy who works at the Junkers. He's the one that gives you Metal Gear, or it could be the Chief. And I like that. That was great.
Benson something. His first name is Benson, and the other guy's last name is Benson. And you find like a patient record that says like all it has is the name Benson on there. Actually, no, all it has is the weird Chinese characters because you have to get those translated, and they translate to Benson.
Oh yeah, Metal Gear translates.
And you're like, who could this person be? So when you go there and like you see the Chief, you're like, it was the Chief. I've got to get back to Junker headquarters.
We should mention that the way you get around is you actually do get into a vehicle and drive around between segments.
This is kind of an open world game.
It is. And one of these one of the scenes that happens when you get into your, what is it, like a hover car? Turbo cycle,
but it's like a hover car, and it's driving.
It's a Blade Runner flying car.
Is the Snatchers get the bright idea to cut your brakes?
I love that scene.
They cut your brakes on your flying car.
Exactly.
It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so how much do people screw around with the car in that sequence? Because there's a lot you can do with the car when you're trying not to die.
I think I did every single one.
Yeah, you can like
at some point just keeps telling you you're an idiot.
Yeah, at some point you can just like press. There's an option that says like press the button, not a button, press the button. And like every time you press the button, it's something completely different. Where it's like, oh, you turn the radio on. Oh, the windshield wipers are on now. Oh, that actually was the brakes, but they're broken. You idiot.
It's great.
And then random Hagil comes up with his Akira bicycle. It's not a bicycle; it's a motorcycle, but it has like one wheel or something. It's super weird.
Akira.
Yeah.
It's like gravity based.
Even the Akira bikes have two wheels. It's like a weird looking bike. It has like the front of an Akira bike and the back of nothing because it doesn't have a back. Actually, was it Minority Report where they had the bicycles with one wheel, or iRobot? There was definitely a movie.
I want to say I'm thinking Minority Report.
It's So Minority Report stole from Snatcher. That's just one of the many enjoyable sequences in this game, though. Where
I did like it when you get back to the base, Junker headquarters, and you're checking both the Bensons, and you find the last name Benson guy has been shot up, so you know it's not Harry Benson, so you know it's not him. And
he's
Mika,
you initially suspect him too because he's the engineer. He's like the guy that works on the car.
He's the one that had the opportunity to cut your brakes on your flying car.
Yep.
That just sounds even stupider the more I say it, but hey.
Like, sure,
and then you find out as you find out in normal, high fiction horror, it's the Chief all along.
Yeah.
You got to go through a bunch of puzzles to find this out, but I did like that scene because Mika goes missing, and Mika's chained up wherever the hell she is. She's chained up, and you got to shoot him in that little shooting scene. That was awesome.
You can back it up a second.
We're skipping a lot of amazing sequences.
One of the cool parts is that it does another one of those like, oh, there's nobody in this room, right? And Metal Gear, wait, there's motion. and it could either be taken very goofy or it could just be very freaky. But the chief is on the ceiling of his room, his office, and I was just like, "Oh my god, that's freaking weird!"
That was awesome.
His head is like turned around, like his head is turned 180 degrees, looking at you. It's so creepy. It's like something out of like The Thing. It's so creepy.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, and then even when you find Mika again and she's chained up, he's like also hung up on the wall behind her, like he's stood up on the wall. I love too because you can. So when everybody did that sequence, did anybody like have trouble shooting him, or did you just headshot him immediately and it was the most anticlimactic thing ever?
I just headshotted him.
Yeah, you just headshot him and he falls down dead, and you're like, oh wait, was that the end of that sequence?
Yeah, I thought it'd be longer too.
It's this whole big build up to I've got Mika. Grid pops up, bam, he's dead. Okay, moving on. Like, oh, okay, that was it. That was the end.
Thanks for playing.
I brought this up in Parasite Eve. I brought this up a couple times. I love any game that puts you in an environment and then brings you back to that environment later to see how it's changed. I love when games do that. Yeah, and
it's really fucked up when you get back.
Yeah, I think this game, like Parasite Eve, did it really well. I think this game did it even better, where it's like, oh, this is like your head. It's such a short sequence at the beginning where it's like, this is your headquarters. Go around and meet everybody. You come back and it's like there's blood and things are crashed. There's like glass broken everywhere, and like,
certain doors are locked.
Yeah. It's intense.
Something about the way, like, because Kojima's got that eye. He's got that cinematographer eye for his games, and something about like how all the scenes were drawn and set up. They all just had this really creepy atmosphere to them, which is like it's hard to pull off in a 3D game, but in a 2D game, I think it just worked really well for this. It's like you have that like Dutch angle. Things are weird. It's like, yeah, when you look up and he's on the ceiling, and it's just like it looks like he's just right above you.
It's freaky.
It was awesome. And the blood's dripping down, and then it's like, and you look up and you're like, oh, and I knew it was coming.
It's great. It's such a great, like, this game looks great, and it's such a directed sequence. All the sequences are like, they all look a very certain way, which I can only imagine how much, because Kojima's kind of famous for wanting everything to be perfect. Yeah, I can only imagine he was just like, we got to draw this again. Like the angle's slightly wrong.
And then after this, you do start into the final act of this game, which is a lot shorter in Metal Gear fashion, it feels. And that part,
Metal Gear it's Konami fashion, because it's the point where they say you can't do this anymore. Like this game has to end at some point. They're like, fine, we'll just tell all the story now.
Yeah,
pretty much. Like throughout the game, in the chief's office, in the Snatcher apartment, Rucker Hauer's apartment, you see a map of Moscow.
I'm gonna look up his name real quick. I want to see if I can't find his name.
And they talk about Moscow, and they talk about Russia, and then you also find out earlier in the game, we had not mentioned, Gilliam was found near Moscow 3 years ago, and Moscow is gone. Like the whole city's been just blown off the face of the map.
So this is the only part of the game that bothered me, and the only reason it bothered me is because when you play a Hideo Kojima game that's not Metal Gear, I don't want it to have anything to do with Cold War and Russia and nuclear. I know, but it was such a twist that I was like, no, don't do this. No.
Was it Ivan Rodriguez? Was that his name?
Don't remember.
I think it was the chief was named Benson Cunningham, which is just a super weird name. Shin Shuo was the hospital director. Napoleon, who we haven't even mentioned yet, is this whole other character.
I forgot about Napoleon. He's your little informant.
Yeah, I think Ivan Rodriguez is, I hope I'm getting that right, is the Rucker Hauer dude. And his girlfriend is like Lisa? No, Lisa's the other chick.
I like this girlfriend for some reason.
Was it the green hair and the horribly mangled face?
Oh, yeah.
I like the green hair. I wasn't so sure about the horribly mangled face. I did enjoy that. I have a thing, I guess.
I have a thing for green hair.
I do. I think I do.
What the hell is this guy's name? I guess we'll just keep calling him Rucker Hauer because I just can't find it.
But I did. I mean, so then you finally go. Game starts wrapping up. You finally find out that this church looks like Moscow and this and that, and that's where their headquarters were this entire
Freddie Nielsen.
God, that took a long time.
Freddie Nielsen and Lisa Nielsen.
Right. And Gillian, okay, correct me if I'm wrong, because this is what I remember. But isn't Gillian his wife and some other scientist dude who we'll talk about in a little bit? Aren't they put into capsules and they're actually from the 1940s or 60s?
They're from the 60s, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So they're like almost time travelers.
Yeah, that wasn't a fever dream. That actually happened.
Okay.
Gillian, Jamie.
God.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's weird, but that's not even like the weirdest part of it, because Harry Benson, the guy you barely know and who like hates everybody, is your son.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You watch him die. Like he dies in your arms, and he's like, I guess since I didn't have any parents, I just never. And it's like a good long sequence where you're like Metal Gear's like, there's no use calling an ambulance. He's not gonna make it that long. But then it's like 5 minutes more of him giving you his life story. Like,
yeah, Metal Gear. He pulls like a C-3PO. He's like, oh, his heart rate's now at 50 over whatever.
Yeah.
Oh, his heart rate's now at whatever over whatever. It's like, okay, I get it.
He's dying. I get it. Like blood starts coming out of his mouth really slowly. And he's like, anyway, that's why I don't think I like people all that much. Now let me talk about my parents. It's like, Jesus Christ. Like, can I call somebody else to can I call a therapist? Like somebody professional trying to talk to you about this? Anyway, yeah. That's why I like Jean-Jacques so much. Is yeah, we got along. He wasn't a great guy, and I'm not a great guy, but there's something about it. He was just a genial fellow. It's like, okay, die already. Jesus.
It was strange.
You're like, and your son is Harry Benson. You're like, what the fuck?
I never got to do anything for him.
But there are some really...
God, Mike.
Yes.
I just read Katrina, Jean-Jacques' daughter. Okay, so this is a very Resident Evil 4 scenario. In the American version, she's 18.
Oh, okay.
In the Japanese version, she's 14.
Oh, that's even worse than I was thinking.
It's even worse.
Oh, Japan. Oh, 80s in Japan.
It's not even you can't even give it that excuse, because the same fucking thing happens in Resident Evil 4. Where, how old is Ashley in Resident Evil 4, Stefan?
I have no idea.
She's like 15 or 16?
Yeah, she's 16, I think.
Yeah, and then in the American version, suddenly she's 21. No, she's an adult. She's an adult.
With ballistics, too.
This girl who offers to have sex with you later in the game. Yeah, it's good that you do that, because this game goes even further with the shower sequence.
After you get into the church, and that's when they throw all, as you go through a couple cool shooting scenes, which I really like when you shoot all the Snatchers, and it's like you're in the Terminator, they're just popping up and you're just gunning them down.
They're fucking everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, you've seen, 3 up to this point in the game, and suddenly there's 50 of them on this underground base.
Well, you find out, they're all this is where they've been hiding them all. Like, there's a laser about to come down and blow the hell out of this entire area if you don't react fast enough. It
goes full Resident Evil, where they're gonna nuke the city unless you can do something to stop it. And it's like, you gotta blow the shit out of this church. And then that's when they do a big, which we mentioned we broke down most of the story throughout as we've been talking, but they kind of give you all, like in regular Metal Gear or Kojima fashion, you get hit with a half an hour cutscene after you finish the game. Essentially, I mean, after you did all those things, there's no more real gameplay. Like, I'll have a half an hour cutscene. I'm like, what? It took me 2 days to finish this.
It's the most boringest shit ever. I'm sorry.
Who wants to cover the story?
I'll do a quick version of it.
Okay.
So I'll do at least a quick part of the ending. So you find out that you were a scientist. You weren't a junker.
No. Jamie was a scientist. You were a CIA agent.
Oh, okay. Jamie's a scientist. You were a CIA agent. You guys were, and the other guy who was in love with Jamie, who was a scientist,
who was introduced at the very end.
All 3 of you were put inside this tank. He stayed inside he woke up before you guys did, was going to wake Jamie up, decided not to wake Jamie up because she would still love you. So he's like, you know what? You two can sleep forever. Left you two sleeping, working in a lab in Moscow. Then he snatches these commandos that come near, joins them with the Snatchers in them, takes Jamie back, and then is trying to get Jamie to help him eventually with making the skin for the Snatchers.
Yeah.
That's the real quick version.
Also, something about his father. His father's there, but he's just being kept alive. He doesn't want Like it's so weird. His father is there and dying. Now, at some point, Jamie just remembers everything for no reason. That's just like something the plot just demands her remember everything. I'm sure if this game was like 100% completed, it would be like you'd be picking up pieces and you'd both remember things. Like, and she just like something would just click. But no, she just calls in. She's like, out of the blue, she's like, I remember everything. We're awful. We deserve death. And it's like, then she hangs up. You're like, wait, what? What the fuck does that mean?
It was so strange.
Metal Gear.
Metal Gear.
That's the story very summed up.
Brother.
All right. And then they have a little ending scene. Do you guys want to talk about that before we start wrapping it up?
I don't know. Okay, so normally I don't care about spoilers. I make a point to say
skip it.
I don't care about spoilers. I don't believe that spoilers should exist. This is a game where I almost don't want to talk about the ending because it's so funny and so weird.
I mean,
we can take a vote on it. I say no. I say we don't talk about it.
Yeah, I'm cool with that.
I'm cool with skipping it too.
I don't know if that many people are gonna like make the effort to play it. You should, because the ending is hilarious and amazing.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're curious, there's Google. There's many ways. I'm just going to say the word fusion is a word that you might want to remember.
Just watch it. Honestly, just watch a playthrough of it because
that too. Yeah, I mean,
it's only like 4 to 6 hours, like we said. It's shorter than watching a Metal Gear cinematic.
And it's worth it. It is well worth taking the time out.
Absolutely.
And the funny thing is, like, I asked a bunch of different groups, even 2 Kojima groups, for questions for this game, and I got nothing. A lot of people commented. But not a lot of people, I think, have played this game. So if you like what you're listening to, well, one, we did sum it up, most of it very well. But also, take the time out. If you like these type of games, it's really cool. It's definitely worth playing. Or
watch all like Kojima's style. Like if you like adventure games or Kojima's style at all, then play this game. Either of us, because it's a great adventure game and it's like the most Kojima game ever made. So
yep, I should have saw that coming.
I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting it to be so Kojima going in. I was like, it's an early game. He made it right after Metal Gear. I was imagining it as like, okay, this is him like trying to do something different, like to see what he wants to do.
Right?
But it is so Kojima. It's like he knew exactly what kind of games he wanted to make right out of the gate.
Mm-hmm.
He did. He did well.
And he is a terrible sexual deviant, but
are you guys ready to go to Shelf or Box?
I think so.
All right.
Because it's been an hour and a half.
We've talked about hour and 13
for the length of a quarter of the game.
Close to it. Oh, Stefan, since I know you have the different opinion out of us, why don't you go first?
Okay.
Am I going to be disappointed in you, Stefan?
Yes, you are.
Man. Okay. So this game kind of took me by surprise. Part of the reason why I picked it is because I made a promise to myself when I got through like my original picks that I would start picking games that I wanted to play that I had never played, but I was always interested in, and this was one of them. And I'm glad I did, but here's the thing. It's not as cyberpunk as I was hoping it would be, which is mainly the reason why I was so interested in it. It's kind of like what we already said. It's like Invasion of the Body Snatchers or They Live mixed with like, Akira and Terminator.
It's Blade Runner. Science fiction.
Blade Runner.
It's a science fiction game, not a cyberpunk game.
Yeah, and like, all those things kind of work for me until it gets to the point where it goes right into Hideo Kojima territory about Cold War and fucking Russia. And I just kept saying to the screen, I'm like, stop it. Just stop it.
As soon as they brought up nukes, they were out.
Yes. And then from that point on, I was just like, all right, whatever, let's finish this fucker. But yeah, all the good things happened up until that point, and I really liked it up until that point. But as soon as it got there, I was just like, I don't want to play this anymore. I don't want this to be Metal Gear. But yeah, so I'm really on the fence about this, but I'm going to say it's leaning off the shelf. It might fall in the box. It's leaning right now.
At least you won't kick it down the stairs or anything. So
Yeah, it's a good game, and it's fun. It's very interactive. I mean, there's creepy ass moments that I loved with the Snatchers.
yeah.
So I don't know. The art style is awesome. The music is phenomenal. Like there's a vinyl of Snatcher, and I plan to buy that. It's so good, and there's a lot of funny moments. So it's on the shelf, but it's leaning.
If Kojima released a strictly cyberpunk game, would you be interested in that?
I would be on board 100%.
As we don't really know what Death Stranding is going to be still. I mean, it looks like a game.
If that baby turns out to be a nuclear warhead, I'm going to be pissed.
It's going to be a nuke. No, it's not even going to be a nuke. It's going to be Norman Reedus's clone brother is what it's going to be. It's going to be his clone brother, and it's going to grow up to be a full adult in like the span of an hour. I'm calling it right now. At some point, he's going to pull that baby out of that tube, and the next scene is going to be that baby as a naked adult walking around just going, "Hello, brother."
He's probably right, unfortunately.
War.
War's changed.
Stuart, do you want to go next?
Sure. This is going to be a hard shelving for me, which sounds dirty, but
yes, it does. If it's the game,
this is 100% going on my shelf. This, again, like Stefan, I had no idea what to expect going into this. I never played it before. I think I had only like vaguely seen or read the title probably in the past. Like never really looked into what it was. But I don't know, so, like the writing was like perfect classic anime writing, where it was like a little goofy, a little cheesy, but it was still like it was like in a really fun way, and it would do hard cuts to really serious tones, like paranoia and death and macabre, and I was like, that was a sudden shift and again, a 4-hour game that happens multiple times. You shift from like really happy to really dark to really happy to really dark, and it's hard to do that. And just like all the cinematic influence in this game is crazy to me. Like Blade Runner, Terminator, They Live, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. There's Akira in there. There's a bunch of like classic anime feel to this. I read at some point that when they were making this game, they rather than make it like a game, they were making it like a movie or like an anime, which it really stands out that way. And I think, yeah, it's just like something about that feeling, that like classic 80s, like the cyberpunk music with like the science fiction story really worked for me. So this is definitely going on my shelf. I love this game now. And it's weird.
All right.
Yes, weird. His favorite.
Weird is good. Weird is always good.
Next week it will be weird too, so.
We're going to play like a Call of Duty or something. I'm just going to be so bored. We're going to go from like these colorful, wacky stories to Call of Duty.
And the way that we pick stuff and what's currently on our lineup, yeah, I don't think you got to worry about that. We tend to go strange. We're not going to do anything real normal.
There will be a point, I'm telling you right now, there'll be a point where we play a game and I'm just going to be like, it's going in my box. It's too grounded. This game's too based on reality. Not really into it.
All right, I'll go next. I think it's obvious. I'm putting this game on the shelf for sure, because when I went into this, I wasn't expecting anything. I heard about it. I knew it existed. I always had an interest. I started playing. I wasn't so sure about it, but somehow as we were playing it, the story really just grabbed me, and I didn't want to put it down. I remember sitting at work, man, I don't really want to go home and finish Snatcher. I just wanted to keep playing, and that when a game does that to me, when I'm just having so much fun, that's a really nice feeling. It doesn't happen every game on this show. There's some games on the show I'm not thrilled to be playing, but this was a great surprise, because I never would have touched this game wasn't for this podcast and Stefan picking it for the show. Never would have done it in a million years. And anyone out there listening, yes.
Go ahead, finish.
Okay. Anyone out there listening, definitely play this. I mean, Google it. Find a way if you like Kojima games, you like Metal Gear. Take the time out and play through this quickly. It's worth it. It's worth your time. All right.
I know.
I was trying to find out.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I think this is the first game I've picked that Mike likes, by the way.
And you didn't like it, which is even funnier.
That's true.
I was trying to figure out where the name Metal Gear came from. Like, I was trying to look up old interviews with Kojima to figure out if he ever said, like, what Metal Gear means. Because you have, like, Metal Gear came out in 87, and then this game came out in 88, and the main partner in the game is called a Metal Gear. It's like, what is his obsession with the term Metal Gear? Like, what when he thought of that, he was like, this is the coolest shit ever.
And by the way, you are right, Stefan. This is the first game that I really liked on all the ones you picked. I just went through the list real fast. I mean, Silent Hill I like, but yeah, you're right. I did not enjoy most of your picks.
That makes me happy.
So,
yeah, that's usually a good thing.
Yeah.
The trick is if Stefan picks a game and Mike is going to hate it, I'm going to love it.
That's usually true. Yeah.
And before we introduce next week's game, Stefan, do you have any prepared C-facts for us?
Oh, God.
I wasn't kidding. You brought it up, so I figured
it's on you this week.
Go ahead and plug while I get this fact.
Okay, I'll bring up what we're talking about next week. Next week, this is actually DJ's pick. This is one of the picks that, after DJ did leave the show back in episode 15, that we actually did leave it because we have a special guest that will be on next week's episode. His name is Rick. He's from Classic Gamers Guild podcast, which I'm sure some of you listeners are fans of that podcast also. And he's going to be on the show next week as we play Space Quest 5 for PC. A point-and-click adventure Sierra game that I have never played any Sierra game before, so it's been very interesting.
2 adventure games in a row.
Yeah, I didn't know that's what it was, or I wouldn't have put them next to each other.
I don't think any of us knew that this was an adventure game going in. So
I don't know what it was. I was just just putting stuff around based on hours and things.
I saw Kojima and Konami, and I was like, "Oh, that's cool." It'll be like Metal Gear. It'll be like Metal Gear 1.
Far from what I
wasn't expecting text adventure.
This is what I got. And Stefan, did you pick out anything, or you?
So, whale fact of the day.
Well, what do we have here?
I'll see you in Shell, you son of a beach.
For all intents and purposes, Stefan.
All that.
I like how saying the title of it always throws people off so much that they forget the fact.
That was a whale of a good time. Some species of whales are among the largest lived mammals. Scientists estimate bowhead whales, a baleen whale found in the Arctic, can live for more than 200 years. And killer whales, a toothed whale found in various habitats worldwide, can live for more than 100 years.
I think a couple weeks ago we said that jellyfish and lobsters can be immortal, so that's cool. 200 years is pretty good, but whatever. It's no lobster.
And quick disclaimer: back on last week's episode, we did mention we were going to have a guest for this episode. I want to say I didn't cut that out part. We actually almost had 3 different guests for this episode, and due to scheduling conflicts, all 3 people that I run down the line weren't able to make it for this episode. So I was like, so we did try. I found 2 people who loved this game, but one guy, both of them had to work, and it wasn't so.
This conflict. Is the scheduling difficulties podcast.
Oh God, It was. I mean, and the funny thing is, while we were recording, the guy had just gotten back to me like maybe 10 minutes ago. We already been recording for over an hour at this point, hour and a half. So it was just lots of issues. So we will be having, and next week we should have a guest for you guys again as normal.
Yeah, so don't invite guests when you're drunk.
Like since you brought up that joke. Okay, so the guy we first had on this Snatcher episode, if you're still listening, Cody, I'd asked on our group for people to join our show and some guests, and this gentleman had commented and
this guy,
like, you should be on this show, and I'm like, okay, cool. And he's like, you should be on the Snatcher episode. And so I go and finalize it, and later I bring up Stefan. Stefan's like, what are you talking about, man? And I'm like, well, you did this. He's like, no, I didn't. I'm like, you were. He's like, yeah. I'm like, yes, you did. He's like, oh, I was drunk. I don't remember any of this. So I sent him a screenshot of it later. But so that's what happened when you're drinking and on Facebook. So.
I got the notification later, and I was like, "Oh my God, I did invite him on the show. What was I thinking?" Good God.
Maybe, all right, so yeah, just get Stefan drunk. Maybe we can get Patton Oswalt. Get Stefan drunk, throw him on Twitter. We'll see what we can do.
We'll see what happens.
If I even remember that I invited him.
Gonna show up next week and be like, all right, joining us on next week's episode is Michael B. Jordan.
All right, I think it's time for plugs. As always, please follow us on Facebook and Instagram. There will be a link to the Facebook page in the show notes for this episode. There will not be a link for other things that we talked about in this episode. We also there will be a link for our opening. Our opening is from Bulby, aka Mike Stoney, from his EP Bite the Bullet, Cool Kid Squad. So please take a listen to his music over on YouTube. I don't think I have anything else to say. You guys have anything to say?
Nope.
I started drawing a blank, and I'm like, what? What am I doing here?
Aside from just the ever going announcement that we are working on other stuff too. Oh wait, we should say
maybe
we should say we just recorded another movie episode, which is coming out soon.
which you will be listening a few days after this, we released a special with the Trash Talk podcast guys. Austin, who was on this show on the Spider-Man episode a few weeks ago.
Yeah, we literally recorded that yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, is there anything else we should talk about? I don't think we did anything else cool recently.
No memory of this place. So there will be another special for you guys to look forward to. So stay tuned for that. And we will be back to you next week. So everyone have a wonderful night. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Let's end this episode so I can turn my head back on.
Yeah.